everything to do with ritual. I came from a Jewish background. I went to a private Jewish school, and I was I call myself a super Jew. You know, I was really, really committed to the religion, to the rituals, to the holidays. I learned how to read and speak in Hebrew from the first grade. So I was really, I was super in. Then it came time for my bas mitzvah, which is your big ceremony. And because I had been in a private Jewish school, I knew all the prayers. I knew everything to say, everything to do. This was 1971, at the very beginning of the women's liberation movement. And I decided that I wanted the boys' ceremony. And now I was in a conservative synagogue. You know, if I was in a reformed synagogue, which is like the least strict, they may have said yes. Orthodox, absolutely no. But conservative, you know, they're like kind of in the middle. So I thought, what the heck, I'm going to give it a try. I was so in love with the religion, with communing with God, and they said no. And I said, that's not fair. Just because I'm a young woman, you know, it didn't seem fair that I didn't have the same rights as the boys had. And the bar mitzvah is very different than the bas mitzvah. It's very different. Like, they get to read from the book, you know, they get to be part of the group. And the women are just like, you lead a Friday night ceremony. It's not the same thing. So anyway, I became very disillusioned. Yeah.
Perfect. Because more people have shown up, I'm just going to make that announcement for us one more time.
Okay.
One, if you arrive, please mute yourself. Thank you so much. And two, Dev is going to be leading us through, it's going to be incremental. So send your questions to me as you have them actively, and I will interrupt her as she gave you permission to do, so that you can get them answered along the process versus at the end.
And also, if people don't know, if you want to expand me, like make me the speaker page, there's a little square 4-corner thing in the bottom right of the box, and you can expand my video so that I'm more in the center. So Judaism, but so I had my awakening really at Jewish summer camp when I was about 12 or 13. It was right around that time where I was really starting to dive in. Summer camp was outside, you know, it was camp. Every morning we would sit under the trees and sing our Hebrew songs and our prayers. And it was at that point I felt so connected to the divine sitting outside in nature. I was like, wow, I've never had this heart-opening feeling sitting in the synagogue as I have right here singing. Yes, the prayers are beautiful, you know, they're direct connection to God. So that's when I decided I really wanted to involve myself in Judaism, but they said, no, you're a girl, you can't do what the boys do. So I became very disillusioned. I went on my mad search for, you know, what was right for me, pretty much left everything. This was now going into the 70s and the 80s. New Age was big. Ram Dass, Shirley MacLaine, Shakti Gawain, all the New Age teachers. I became very metaphysical. And I just started to do a lot of personal journaling and what was true for me. Like, I just said, okay, I'm going to forget what I've been taught. I'm just going to find out what the truth inside of me. And the truth was that I felt the connection between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, which is in sacred alchemy called the androgyny. And that nature was the place to really connect. So fast forward to 1992, I started to get connected with people in paganism and Wicca. And at first I was like, ooh, what's that? You know, that sounds scary. But then when I found out what it really was, it wasn't what, you know, everybody thought it was. Paganism is actually people who are worshiping on the land. Pagano, it's an old Celtic Gaelic word, and it just, you know, got misassociated with wrong, everything wrong, you know, because of what the church did to us. And I don't want to go into all that, but I was like, okay, I went to a coven and it just felt so aligned with what I had been journaling, connecting to the divine through nature, and that there's this balance of the divine masculine and feminine. It's not all about the masculine God. You know, what about the female? And so I joined a coven in 1992, and I stayed in for a year and a day's the commitment to go to every single ritual, and I became initiated as a Wiccan priestess in 1992. So that's going on 30 some years. So my professional background is in entertainment and dance. So I was a professional dancer. And at the time I was studying acting. So my coven, because they found out that I could act and I could take on roles, that they gave me all these parts, you know, to read because I could memorize and I could learn lines and stuff. So they said, okay, here's a part of, you know, this and that. And I was like, okay, I kind of faked it till I made it, and jumped into just being in the ritual. I was very comfortable with ritual and singing, and because of my Judaism, because that's what it's all about. It's about, you know, doing the rituals, taking the, you know, the things, and then making a hut, or eating the right foods, or scraping this, and doing a ritual. And I loved that. So I became very aligned with Wicca. I later started to study shamanism and alchemy, which is very much aligned with Wicca. And, Wicca is really a brand new religion. It just started in the 50s. It's based on ancient Celtic shamanism. But because nothing was written down, and if it was destroyed, Gerald Gardner in the 1930s started to bring the practice back. And in England, when the law, there was actually a law that you could not practice witchcraft, it was repealed. And so in the 1950s, everything started to change and flourish and became more accessible. So Gerald Gardner brought Gardnerian Wicca, and, it became very, very populated. And then Aleister Crowley brought his own flavor to it, and it just expanded and expanded. And because there's no real, how-to, there's something called traditional Wicca, and then there's eclectic Wicca. And I consider myself an eclectic Wiccan because I bring in lots of different pieces of other things that I know and have learned throughout the years to make my own flavor of my rituals, which are based on the principles of alchemy and ritual work. So there is kind of a recipe to creating a ritual, just like when you're cooking, like that Liz had, this is the recipe. And if you want to have a really good cake, you got to have certain ingredients, and they've got to get put in at a certain order. And if you forget one, your cake is going to go flat. So you want to have these certain elements in your ritual work to have a certain outcome, a positive outcome. So there are certain considerations that you want. So the first consideration is, why are you doing a ritual? What's your intention for the ritual? Now, the things that you want to look at for the why is the when. Okay, so there are two different cycles in nature that you want to consider when you're doing your ritual, and that's the moon cycle and that's the solar cycle. The moon cycle is every 28.5 days, and that's going full to new, and that's the expansion and the contraction of the energy, and this very feminine energy, because our moon cycles were originally supposed to be aligned with the moon. We call it our moon cycle. At the new moon, that's when you plant a seed or start something new. So at the new moon to the full moon, the energy is expanding. So if you're doing creation work, creating a new business, have a new idea, creating new artwork, whatever you're manifesting, you want to do it in that cycle. It's about a 2-week cycle from new to full. If you're getting rid of something or releasing something or letting something go or cleaning something out or getting rid of a relationship or a job, you want to do that from the full moon cycle to the new moon cycle. That's called the waning cycle, and because the energy starts to diminish and release. So that's the moon cycle you want to consider. The solar cycle, we call it the wheel of the year. Instead of seeing the calendar as linear, which is very masculine, the wheel is a circle, and because we go around the sun, it's very logical that our calendar is seen as a wheel. We have 8 pieces of the pie of the wheel. So we have the quarters, which are the solstices and the equinoxes, And then you have your mid-seasonal holidays. And those are, some are familiar and some are less familiar. So the 4 cross-quarter holidays are, we're coming up to one now called Imbolc, and that's midwinter. And that's when we first start to see the first inklings of spring, and we're like celebrating, especially if you're in the cold climate, which is, you know, because this came from North Europe, this practice, seasons were very important. Right now we have year-round agriculture, and we're not quite as reliant on what's happening outside. You know, we have heating and air conditioning and everything, but energetically, we're still connected to the seasons. So Imbolc means first lamb's milk, and the lambs started to you know, they get pregnant, and the birthing of the calves is starting to happen in the lambs. So we celebrate the first spring, coming of spring and the end of winter. And then mid-spring is Beltane, right? So then you have spring, which is growth. And so if you're planting seeds, so like a new moon on the equinox is powerful to start to create something, powerful creation energy, you know, and you can physically actually plant something in the ground and then put your intention into that seed. And then mid-spring is Beltane, and that's all about fertility, and it's the coming together of the divine masculine and the divine feminine to create the divine child. And this is all about, you know, our fertility. Wow, we had Beltane children, so people would go out into the fields and leave their partners and just, you know, play with whoever. And if a woman got pregnant at Beltane, that was a sacred child. So our idea about sexuality has completely, you know, gotten twisted, and we know it's not what it is. You know, if it wasn't for sex, nobody would be here. So our ancestors really celebrated, you know, our sexuality, and Wicca is really a fertility religion. So it celebrates our life and our growth and our coming together, that blending of the masculine and feminine. And then we have summer. And then the next, the midsummer holiday is called Lammas, and that one is about harvesting. That's the first harvest ritual. Lammas means loaves mass, and that's when you when you're harvesting. So you're gathering. You can gather your wisdom if you're not actually physically gathering things from the field. What wisdom have you gathered? What knowledge have you gathered? And celebrate that. After that is the fall equinox, which is considered the second harvest festival, and that's also about balance. Both equinoxes, equinox means equal night and day. So you can celebrate the balance of the divine feminine and masculine, balance in yourself. If you feel like you're overworking and you're not spending enough time, you know, with your family or with yourself, it's a good time to find that balance. And then we go into the mid-fall holiday, which is Samhain, aka Halloween. And that one we know about. It's actually a very sacred holiday, also Day of the Dead. It's the Witch's New Year, and it is all about our ancestors and connecting across the veils to those have gone before. At this point, it's the darkest time of the year also. Then we move into Yule, the winter solstice, and then we celebrate the light. And we know that, like Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and Christmas, it's all about light, and it all, you know, the real reason for the season is the winter solstice. So if you see those billboards, I want to go and cross out, thank you, Jesus. It's really about the winter solstice, though. So that's our wheel of the year. So those are the considerations of the timing of when you're going to do your rituals. Now, why you would perform a ritual, there's lots of different reasons. You could have an initiation ritual, and Imbolc is a really good time for initiation. It's just the starting of something new. You know, the spring is coming. Your planting is going to happen in the springtime, growth, coming of age. You might have a ritual for you know, the menses of your daughter. It's a beautiful time to celebrate their period, you know, on a new moon or a full moon, you know, especially if they're bleeding on a full moon, to have a ritual around that. You know, red tents are about women's cycles. you know, you could be releasing, you could be doing a ritual for protection, for attracting something, magnetizing, for just celebration, right? Just celebrating a, you know, a marriage or a you know, a new job. So all these things, you want to look at the reason why you're having a ritual, and then you want to place it accordingly, either on the wheel of the year or on the new and full moon cycles. The next thing you want to consider in your ritual is setting up. So just like, you know, in cooking, you know, they have us go shopping and you want to get all your ingredients. So for your ritual, you want to have all your ingredients. You want to know what you're going to have on your altar. You know, if you're going to be planting something, you want to have your seeds. You want to have all. Yes.
Can you repeat the midsummer, or did you, or did you mention that?
Midsummer. Did I skip summer? Summer solstice is called Litha, or light. So maybe I jump right over that. So that's the longest day of the year. Thank you for reminding me. Boy, I went right from Beltane right to Lammas. So I skipped, yeah. Now the equinoxes and solstices are actually called the lesser Sabbats. So Sabbats are the names of the 8 holidays. You have greater Sabbats and lesser Sabbats. The greater Sabbats are the ones that are less known, but those are more important because they fall right smack in the middle of the season. Summer solstice is Litha, light. It's the time when the sun is at its fullest. You're celebrating the sun god. You're celebrating growth and expansion, and you're outside, and it's a beautiful time. And that's when I have my my Phoenix Rising gathering. So just a little aside, one of the things that I hold are live rituals and public gatherings in the San Diego area. If you want to make a trip down to San Diego for the summer solstice, I have a 4-day gathering, and Goddess willing, that all the restrictions are lifted and we can hold it, you know, this year. So we celebrate right on the solstice that with sacred fire circle ceremonies. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of my workshop and different things that I offer. Yeah, so do we have any other questions coming in? I'll take a pause, I'll take a breath, take some water.
Yes, everyone drink some water. And no, we don't have any other questions just yet.
All right. So moving right along, preparing your ritual. Okay. So whether you're having a solitary ritual or you're having a group ritual, the preparation is basically the same, and the process is basically the same. So you want to prepare yourself. You want to get calm and centered. You never want to do a ritual when you're feeling anxious or angry or ungrounded. Now there's ways to get to that place, and that's the first part of the ritual. If you are like, I really need to do a ritual for this, but I feel like super scattered, then you're going to do a lot of grounding and get yourself ready to be in a ritual environment. You're going to prepare your altar. You can have all of your altar tools, and the 5 basic tools of the witch are the blade, called the athame, the wand, the chalice, which is the cup for water, the pentacle, and if you know tarot, these are all the same, like the suits, and then the cauldron, which represents spirit. So you want to have all your tools, and then you want to have your elemental representations. So for air, let's say you will have incense or a feather. For fire and south, you would have a candle, or you could have a picture of a fire. I like to put a dragon, you know. Thank you, Adrian. That was such a good dragon. Oh yeah, the dragon. So, you know, I often call in dragons from the south, even though dragons are all elements. You know, I just instinctively put them in the south because they're fire creatures. The chalice and a shell for water. And then in the north for earth is the pentacle, which represents manifestation or coins in the tarot. And then you could also have salt, which represents the salt of the earth. I don't usually use sea salt. I would use Himalayan salt, which comes from the earth. Or you could put a crystal or a rock or a stone in the north. And then in the center is your cauldron. Or you could put your statues of your deities also in the center. The cauldron represents the womb and that space of creation, and that place where we're coming from the void. So you prepare your altar, you clean your space. You know, if you have junk around, you want to clear it out. You don't want to have distractions. This is a really good time. You know, COVID's allowed us to be in our homes and really clear it out. And I think that a lot of people have been, you know, clearing out drawers and clearing out junk and clutter, as you don't want to have that energetic distraction pulling your energy away, especially if you have stuff that's associated with, you know, people from your past that really are not part of your life anymore. You know, old love or relationship. You want to get rid of those things, and definitely not have them in your ritual space. And then you want to have prepare your whatever you might do for your ritual work or your spell work or your craft work. Herbs, oils, candles, colored thread. You know, and you can do your research on spell work. You can just go to the internet. There's tons of resources for, you know, how do I do a spell for this or that or that or that. But really creating your sacred space, preparing your space is more important, and preparing yourself is more important than actually doing the spell. Because if you're not in alignment with your own energy, the spell is just going to fall flat. You know, it's kind of like keeping the oven door open, you know, instead of closing it, and having that nice tight container. At the end of ritual, we always do something called cakes and ale or cakes and wine, something to ground you. I don't drink, so I usually use coconut water, kombucha. You can have whatever, like a food and a drink for libations. And then, you know, of course, anything you need for the ritual. So once you've got all your stuff ready, now you're going to actually go into preparing for the ritual, and you're going to cleanse your space, and you're going to take some sage or your broom, which is an energetic clearing tool called a besom, and you're going to go in a counterclockwise direction, which is an undoing energy, right? It's an unwinding energy, and that's a cleansing energy. So you might start at your front door and go around and just sweep your space, cleanse it with sage, clear every single corner. You could brush it, you could use your feather, you could use bells, anything like that, and clear your space, and then sweep it out your front door. You know, make sure that there's no yucky, gunky energy, and clean it out, and then close your door. And then when the people come in, you're going to smudge them or smudge yourself, you know, so that you're ready and your energy is cleansed and cleared for doing your ritual work. Okay. You can also use, yes.
Okay, I have one question. Let me read it.
Okay.
Is there any way to tell if a negative spell was cast on yourself from someone else?
I get asked this a lot. The only way that something negative can attach to you is if your energy is negative. Like energy attracts like energy. Okay? So there's nothing you can do to undo energy if your energy has not been purified. The best way to clear anything that you feel like, I have this negative energy, this negative entity, or somebody's cast a hex on me, is to work on yourself. To work on yourself. To fortify your energy, to build your own energy fields through energy medicine. There's great energy medicine work that I teach. I use a few different people's energy medicine routines, and this fortifies and seals your own energy so that you don't have any leaks. You know, especially if you've been in a relationship with somebody and you're trying to get rid of them, but you're thinking about them and you have pictures around and their stuff. Who was it that was talking about? I think it was Marie was talking about, you know, clearing somebody else's energy. Really, I feel that the best way to do that, besides clearing their stuff out, is to build your own energy back up, and don't take on another relationship yet. Because you end up having like energetic holes. Like when you're in a relationship with somebody, you actually enmesh your energy. And when you separate from somebody, you know, you've got like these spaces, these holes in your energetic field that now other things can come in. So you want to seal yourself. You want to be by yourself. You want to hermit up. You want to energize yourself and refortify your own energy. If your energy is good, negative energies cannot attach to you. Okay, so I get asked a lot, how do you know, when you're opening your portals and you're in a ritual, that negative energies are not going to come in? Well, this is what I say. Remember what I said earlier. If you're feeling angry or annoyed or pissed off, do not do a ritual in that space, because then you're opening yourself up to negative energies that are matching your energy. Remember, we are energy. That's what we are. We are energy beings. Our energy attracts the same energy. And this is really important with spell work also. Like, why aren't all witches rich? You know, because they're not vibrating at the energy of wealth, you know? Because they might be coming from a place of lack and I need and I want. So this is not the way to do a spell. It's to be in the having, to be in the knowing that you're deserving of the energy. If you're fearful of negative energies attaching to you, more likely they have that potential. Also, drugs and alcohol open up your energy field to negative energies. My sister was a drug addict. I know very, very well. She had a negative entities attached to her. And, you know, it was very sad. She was a brilliant woman, but she got addicted to drugs. So, you know, just be careful. They call alcohol spirits for a reason. Okay. Yes.
One other question I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Someone spoke to, you had started to, I believe, like when you were talking about one of the seasons during spring, you mentioned like seeds specifically. So just is it possible to go back and just let us know, are there certain, not ingredients, but maybe ingredients or things like seeds for each one? Or was that just something that you read?
Well, you know, it also depends on what you're planting. You know, and that you want to just look at, you know, the Farmer's Almanac or something.
Got it. Okay.
You know, because that's practical.
Time of year.
Time of year, you know, what are you planting? When are you planting? Is it a winter plant? You know, you'll be planting that in the winter. If you're planting a seed in the springtime, you want to make sure that it's a seed that's going to grow in the spring, summer. So that's just a super practical thing. And really, if you're just planting it for energetics, you want to plant it because it's actually going to grow, you know. You know, if you plant a seed and it's a winter seed and you're planting in the spring, it doesn't grow and you're like, oh, my magic didn't work. It's like, well, just get practical, you know. Practical magic. You planted the seed at the wrong time of year, you know. So
I think they meant to not literally just a seed. I think that person had used like spring being a seed because it's a time of growth, but different times of year having like different gosh, I can't think of what the word might be, but like not a symbol, but like a physical thing you might put on your altar because it's that time of year. I think that's what they were referencing.
Yeah, like you could use like a pine cone or an what do they call it? Acorn, you know, or something that represents like a great oak that's condensed into this little tiny seed. You know, something that won't actually sprout, but represents the condensation, you know, not like water condensation, but the condensation, is that the right word? You know, of this magnificent oak energy that's in this seed. So you put that on your altar, you know, as the idea that I am now going to manifest this huge project, you know, and of course you're not going to grow an oak tree overnight or even in the next, year. It's going to take a long time, but it's representational. So that you could definitely use, something like that.
Got it. And one more question did come in as well. It is, I believe they're asking, do you teach on, or do you, work with people on how to clear those negative entities around drugs and alcohol, if that's been something for them?
That's really deep work. I do a process, I call it somatic alchemy. And people really have to be ready for this. I would more send them to a drug and alcohol counselor, really honestly, if you're dealing with serious drug and alcohol addictions. And then once they start to get on the process of growth, then, you can work on the spiritual stuff. But people who are deep in alcohol and drug, they're too vulnerable and they're not really ready to go into deep spiritual work. You have to have a certain level of grounding in order to commit, to the process of alchemy is transformational work. Yeah.
Got it. So only if they were in a place where they had done some healing, but still felt that negative energy as just like a part of their, hermstery.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. And very often it comes from childhood. So, it's energy that's been stuffed down into the body that was too intense for us to deal with. Usually when we're 5 years old, that's when it starts, between 4 and 6 years old. And we can't really understand what's happening, but some traumatic experience happens. And Tarni works with this kind of energy too. It gets stuffed down in our bodies and it just stays there as stuck energy, which later manifests as disease or pain. It's all energy that's been stuck because emotionally we haven't been able to process it. So I'll just talk really briefly about this process that I take people through. It's through breath and sound. Sound vibrates, right? It helps vibrate your energy loose, and the breath and the sound coming together. I do this process with people and often in just one session, you're just clear, because it's super intense and you have to be willing to dive into it. So that's something that I offer, and you can go to my website and look at stuff that I offer. So where was I? So I want to continue on with the ritual process. So you've cleansed yourself, right? You feel good. You now you want to, set your intentions. Okay, this is my plan for ritual. You want to, if there's other people there, you want to get on the same page. This is what we're doing for the ritual. And then you want to ground your energy. And we've been doing a lot of that work. So I think we're all familiar with grounding, because having all this ideas and this conceptual of what I want to accomplish doesn't land in the physical unless you're grounded. And if you can get outside and take your shoes off, that physically actually grounds you to the earth, vibrating on the Schumann resonance, which is the vibration of the earth, which our bodies should be tuned to. Unfortunately, now that we have rubber soles, we're cut off from our ground cord and we're vibrating more at the frequency of technology, which is way up like in the 60 hertz. We want to slow ourselves down and get grounded so that you can really anchor your energy down. I take people through a process of grounding. I work through the chakras, centering, and then opening up. So in alchemy, there's an expression, as above, so below. And this is, so we ground ourselves and we reach up to, the heavens, and then we bring these two energies together. In alchemy, the Emerald Tablet is a 10,000-year-old document that says, that which was above, it corresponds to that which is below. And it's a very cryptic, very interesting writing in Hermetic alchemy, which it's a lifelong study, which I've studied for about 20 years. So you want to get grounded, you want to open and, clear the energy and just get the energy moving in your body. Oftentimes just doing a really deep Om will really help anchor your energy getting ready for ritual. And then you segue into creating your, now I call this next section your ritual tech. So this is physically creating your container. And in alchemy, it's all about the alchemist flask, right? You put your ingredients in, you have to have a container to hold your ingredients. And in Wicca also is, we're creating a sacred space. You know, we're creating a container of energetic container to hold the energy that you're doing your work in. And so you cast a circle, and you draw a sacred circle with your athame, which is your sacred knife. It's never used to cut anything physical. It's used to delineate energy in sacred space. And you go east to east. I like to go from north all the way around, because like sometimes your curtains, like if they're closed like this, and then a little bit of energy can peek through. So I just overlap a little bit. And this is like adding my own little, you know, I learned this, but you can add your own little, you know, this feels better if I start in the north and then finish in the east, because it just closes your container. And as you're drawing your sacred space, you're claiming that you are creating sacred space, that you're purifying the space, you're raising your energy, you're creating a container. And you can write a whole, if anybody was here yesterday morning, I said a whole thing that I've memorized in order to create that ritual space. And it just feels very ceremonial, you know, when you speak in rhyme and you speak poetically, it starts to shift your consciousness to where, oh, something different is happening. And that's really important, you know, that your conscious and your subconscious start to work together, and you realize that you're not in your everyday average space. So you want to create, you know, a lower light some candles, incense, all this helps create a different environment. Definitely turn off your electronics. You don't want your phone ringing during ritual. And then once you've cast your circle, you call in your directions. And you know, I could go on for 2 hours about how to call in a direction. And in fact, in the schedule, I've provided you with 2 different ritual docs. One of them is this process that I'm giving you now, and one of them is exclusively on calling the directions, and it's a 2-page document, and it gives you all the correspondences of air, fire, water, earth, and spirit, and the different things that you want to consider when you're invoking that direction. So for instance, east is the realm of air. It's your inspiration, it's your mind, it's the flying ones, it's birds and hawks and eagles, and it's your perspective on life. You can also invoke elementals, which are the fae, and the sprites. If you feel called to, you don't have to. If you're just working in the shamanic realms, then you can just simply call in the energies of physical earth, which have their own energetic components. So when you invoke, you are taking in the energy of those elements into your body to then manifest them, anchor them into your sacred space. So you always want to speak with passion and power and intention, and knowing you can take your breaks, but really to call in that direction is bringing that energy into your environment and to align your body with that earth element, because we're made of that. You know, our breath is so important for us. You know, our fire, our internal fire, which is in the south, that's how we invoke fire, is our drive, our passion. It's the color red, it's the noonday sun. There are associations for time of life, time of the year, the color, the animals, the elementals. There's all these different associations that you can consider when you're writing or invoking your directions. In the west is water. It's the realm of the emotions and the flow of all the bodies of water. You know, our emotions come through our tears, our cleansing, its purification. Then we move into the earth, and we call our grounding and the powers of the crystals and the stones and the rocks and the mountains, and aligning with the running ones. So, the swimming ones are in the water, the running ones are in the north. And then you're going to call in center and spirit. And that is when you can call in your angels, your spirit guides, your ancestors. Some people like to call their ancestors in the north. I wait until I'm in the center and invoking that which is the unseen realms. Then after you do that, then you want to call in if you're working with a specific deity at that time of year, or you're working on manifestation, abundance. You want to call in Lakshmi. And the beauty of Wicca is that we can call from all these different pantheons. We're not locked into only the Celtic gods and goddesses. You could call in anybody and they'll be there, because they're really just reflections of ourselves, right? Because we are God, we are goddess. So when you call in those energies, you're really invoking that energy in yourself and aligning with the greater archetypal energy of that god or goddess, so that you can be that and call in their energies, just teaching us how to be what they are being. After you've called in your deities, then you claim you are in sacred space. And I say, the circle is cast. We are between the worlds, beyond the bounds of time and space, where light and dark, birth and death, joy and sorrow meet as one. Our fires are lit. Our ritual has begun. And that's what I learned to say to claim your sacred space. And then you can go into your ritual work, or your spell work, or your celebration work, whatever it is that is your intention. And this can be going into silence, meditation. If you're trying to align yourself with something that clarity, getting clarity on a subject. If you want to call in your animal spirit guides, who is my guide, and you want to ask them for guidance. This is a time that you want to plant your seeds or light your candle. If you're doing candle magic, consider what color your candle is. You might want to inscribe your candle, anoint it with oil, light it, creating a magical bag, putting your herbs and your crystals in your bag, a certain color of your bag, and then, hold it to your heart. If you're calling in love, use red or pink. And put your love stones in there, your rose quartz and your your rhodochrosite and all these red for love, whatever it is you're manifesting. You could do a writing exercise. You could go just journal. You could just scribble and see what you're writing. A really cool exercise is to write with both hands, because it works both sides of your brain, and you can draw, all these different ideas for rituals. When I'm creating a ritual, I will go into meditative state, and I'll just say, what ritual needs to come through at this time? I will look at what's happening in the sky, but then, how can I bring in this intention work? You could do a vision board. You can do artwork. You can burn something in the cauldron to release it. And then always, when you burn something, when you let something go, you have a void. You have to create something after it. Otherwise, something else is going to come in. Probably the same thing that you just burned. Right? So when you let something go, make sure that you bring something else in and focus on that more than what you're letting go. Because if you're just focusing on, I'm letting go, I'm releasing this, I don't want this. Marie pointed this out. You can't differentiate like what you don't want. Because if I say, I don't want to be fat anymore, all your mind goes is, I'm fat. Right? And that's what you manifest. So call in, I have the most perfect body. I love my body. I exercise every day. I love it. So focus on what you do want, and then feel it in your body. So the next part is raising energy, because this is not a mental process. This is an energetic process. So in order for your spell or your ritual to hit its mark, you've got to get your energy up. You can't just sit there and go, boy, I hope this is going to happen. You got to dance. You got to sing. You got to drum. And dancing is the great way. I was a professional dancer. That's how I started. So dancing for me is like my most perfect way to make my spell happen. And I'll dance that into being. What is that like? What does that feel like in my body to have what I'm calling in? And already feel like you have it. That's the secret to manifestation, law of attraction, ritual work, quantum physics is all the same thing. It's fake it till you make it, but don't fake it, like really feel it. So as you dance and as you sing and as you drum, you're raising your energy to raise your vibration to create this reality. Then when you feel your energy peaking, you're going to create something called a cone of power. Now we know what a cone looks like. It's circular and it gets smaller as it gets to the top. And you're going to visualize this energy spiraling around in a clockwise direction, around and around and around. When you're with a group of people, you can spiral your hands like this and make the energy go faster and faster and faster until it peaks, and your voice and your sound and your dance and your drumming just peaks until it shoots out like a rocket ship out of the cone, and it releases out into the universe. And you feel it and you send it out. And once it's sent out, then you breathe and you ground your energy back down. You put your hands on the ground. You thank Mother Earth for holding you. You want to return to the earth, you know, to make sure that you're grounded and not just flying into the cosmos. Bring your energy back down. You know, touch your forehead, you know, go into full prostration into the earth. And that's, you know, that's raising your energy and then grounding it back down. And then we go into casual mode. And then we go into libations, cakes and ale. And, you know, you take your chalice and you take your athame and you put your athame into the chalice, as above, so below. The masculine, the feminine coming together. The athame does represent the masculine, right? The phallus. The chalice is this is a candle. It's not a cup, but that's the divine feminine. And they come together in order to bless whatever you're drinking. You say a prayer over it. Always bless your food. Always bless your drink. Even if you're not in a ritual, it's just a beautiful thing to do, to say thank you for, you know, the gifts of the earth. And then we pass the cup around. Now we don't. Now I have little mini cups. You know, if we're in a ritual, now we're way far away. Like, here, take a cup, because I do live rituals outside, and we're mass and we're distance, and you know everything's different now. But you know, when everything gets back to normal, you can pass your cup around, or everybody can have their own chalice and say what you're grateful for. It's a beautiful time to offer gratitude. Because you know what you are grateful for just manifests more of what you're thankful for. And then you bless your cakes or your cookies or your chocolate. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all the sweets of the earth, for providing the sustenance and the sweetness, and then eat and share, and then you can have a little bit of casual time for yourself, and then it's time to close the circle. And what we say when we pass the cup is, may you never thirst. When you pass the food, it's may you never hunger. So those are just beautiful, like, witchy prayers that you say for each other. And then you release your directions, and you release the directions in the reverse order that you call them in. So you start with center, and you thank your ancestors, your deities, your guides for being there. Stay if you will, go if you must, hail and farewell. You release them, you know, just like, because if you have a party, you don't just say, I'm going to go to my bedroom now. You know, you want to say, thanks for being here. Okay, there's the door. Goodbye. So we want to do the same thing with the energies that you've called in. You know, thank them for being there, and then release them. And you say, stay if you will, go if you must, because they might want to hang around a little bit. They like you, you know. Even though the circle may be open and released, you know, the dragons might hang around, or your little gnomes might hang around. That's okay. Just make sure the gnomes are not going to hide your keys, because they like to do that. Yeah, so you reverse from center, and then to the north, earth, and then to the west, water, then to the south, fire, and then to the east for air. And then you release your energies. And then there's a traditional Wiccan song, which is, may the circle be open but unbroken. May the peace of the goddess be in your heart. Merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again. And there's a nice little song for that we sing. Sometimes you can do an ohm. If people in your circle don't know that song, that's fine. You can just do an ohm, and it releases the energy, and you can then woo-hoo-hoo-hoo, you know. And that's the process for ritual. So, how am I doing on time, Sierra?
You're doing great. You have about 7 minutes left. 7 minutes, we're on to our next workshop. And we do have 2 questions I would love to ask you.
Let's do questions now. Yeah.
Okay, great. One question that came in was, how do you make sure the gnomes don't hide your keys?
And coyotes, you know, they're just playing with you. It's really about you being mindful. You being mindful about your stuff. Okay, so you ask them, what is it that I need to know about my stuff that I'm being mindless about not taking care of my keys? But even if you're like, I'm sure they were there, just say, oh, you know, okay, you little guys, leprechauns, you know, I know you're there. Hello, please return my keys. Ask them, you know, ask them.
Got it.
Or like say, I really, you know, this is not funny. Thank you. You know, I recognize you. You're having a good time. I acknowledge you. Please return my keys. Or what do I need to learn, you know, about losing my stuff, losing my stuff. What do keys represent? They unlock something. Keys are really cool for spells, because keys are meant to unlock something. So if you're missing your keys, you're missing the key to unlocking a secret door. Sierra, you just froze up. Your video froze. She's going to need to refresh. If anybody has questions, go ahead and send them directly to me. And while she refreshes, you can copy your own question that you sent her and just send them on to me. I'll give you a moment to write them in. If you're close enough to me, you can just ask me. You can unmute yourself and just ask, and then I'll repeat your question in case other people can't hear you. That might be just the most simple way. Questions.
Dev, can you hear me?
Okay, well, I'm just going to talk about what I do then. So yes. Okay. Okay. My mom used to come to my rituals. She's all about the goddess. She's 88 and she lives with me. She loves it. Yeah, it's totally fine. I don't have a super dogmatic Jewish family. In fact, most of my family is not very Jewish anymore. And my Orthodox uncle, he said, you know, we do fire rituals too in Judaism. So we're just finding our common ground. You know, I know that Catholics like really don't align. Jews don't have the same stigma as the Christian religions. You know, so luckily they're a lot more open-minded.
And then we had a question before. Let me see. Somebody had a question about Sorry, going back here.
Oh, and I see
Okay.
one. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. When we had that question earlier about negative energies around, drugs and alcohol, somebody just asked, were we talking about like pharmaceutical drugs, or are you also talking about like even cannabis and natural medicine?
More pharmaceuticals and drugs that really take you out of your center. Like cocaine and yeah, street drugs. Cannabis, it's definitely an earth medicine. I find that there's time and place for earth medicine because they're of the earth, they're natural. So you don't want to overuse them. You want to use them with consciousness and awareness, and whatever plant medicines you're using, whether it's mushrooms or something. I don't particularly use them in a ritual. I want to be really open and just clear for my rituals. But cannabis can open you up to different kinds of really wonderful earth energies. So just like Panda shared his positive connection to cannabis, I think there's really a positive. But then if you overdo anything, it's too much. Right. Yeah. So all in balance. Okay.
Awesome. And then I noticed I wasn't on broadcast when I came in. So although you heard me, Dev, not everyone did. So the last two questions I asked were when we were talking about or referencing drugs and alcohol, was it more pharmaceutical or cannabis-based, which she just answered. And then the question that I asked before that had to do with how was the response of her family, Jewish ideals or ways of being versus with her Wiccan priestess.
Right. I answered that. Yep. When you were done. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Great. I just wanted to make sure everyone heard.
Like with the Orthodox, it's not gonna line, but my family's not Orthodox, and
got it.
A lot of Jews are now Buddhists and Wiccans. It's kind of funny. There's a lot of Jew witches out there. a lot, awesome. Because it's a very open-minded and a religion that is open to inquiry, so asking questions. So the documents are in the schedule, not the one that you pull up here, but in the SSGG schedule. I believe there's documents there giving this outline for the ritual process and also the elemental invocations. And I would just like to take these last 2 minutes just to talk about my work. I'm obviously a ritual leader. I hold a women's year-long training program called Path of the Priestess. Tomorrow at 3:13, I'm going to be sharing about that, specifically that program for women identified. And I'm telling you this, the first time I'm ever saying this, this is the last year I'm going to be holding the Path of the Priestess, because it's exclusive. And I don't feel that's accurate anymore. I'm going to be still doing a program, but it's not going to be limited to women gendered or women by choice. But this year it is. It's we start in just a few weeks, and it's live at my home or on Zoom. We meet throughout the whole wheel of the year, and I teach you about rituals, about cleansing, all this stuff that I shared with you here about how to align with ritual, and a lot more. Going into meditative work. I'm teaching about alchemy and that process of there's 7 stages of hermetic alchemy, which is a very, very understandable system for transformation. Alchemy, hermetic alchemy, is a system for personal transformations. Fascinating. I do a summer solstice gathering called Phoenix Rising here in San Diego. So come and take a 4-day weekend trip down here to San Diego, and we do sacred fire circles. So this area that we're at, Sasha was in my first year Path of the Priestess, and the Phoenix Rising is part of the Priestess Path program, and she designed this little area in alignment with the sacred fire circles. We're dancing all night until the sun comes up around a sacred fire in the alchemical tradition of holding a container and doing personal transformation work using the element of fire for burning up and transmuting energy. Lead into gold is what we say in alchemy. Lead being the heaviest, the things that hold us down, to gold is our enlightened spirit. So if you're interested in also working with me, you can go to my website. I'm not really set up here for one-on-ones, but I'm open to it, doing the shamanic alchemy sessions. I didn't have a chance to figure out the whole calendar thing. So I would just say go to my website, which is devragregory.com. Devra, D-E-V-R-A, is my full name. Gregory is my last name, .com. And you can see the sessions that I hold. I'm also a massage therapist. So if you're in San Diego and you want body work, I offer that. You just have to wear a mask when you're on the table. So I think that's it. I hope to see some of you tomorrow at 3:13 to talk about the path of the priestess. I have spots open. I'm calling this the powerhouse group. The women who have signed up so far are super women, you know, and sometimes I get women who are brand new and really are uncertain about their work. But this is a power group, so I invite you to join that program. If you're in another city, you can join on Zoom. And I think we're probably out of time.
Perfect timing, Dev. And I do want to just say I took Path of the Priestess 3 years ago, and it absolutely changed my life. I literally would not have taken this beautiful apartment that I love so much and committed to living here in Oceanside without that program, because it was a year-long. I couldn't commit to anything, y'all. And because it was a year-long program, it took something for me to commit to that. And Dev helped me over that hump. Yeah. And now I've lived in this apartment for 3 years, not just one. And I love it. And I love Oceanside. And, you know, I got to co-create Ecstatic Dance San Diego through these choices. And Devra up-leveled my integrity. She up-leveled my witchy abilities. She up-leveled my knowledge of paganism and how to do ritual. And it's how I knew that this program, this workshop tonight would be so valuable for you all. So I know that you just learned a whole heck of a lot from our resident pagan priestess, Dev, who even goes into jails and is like the Wiccan priest or priestess for these people that are in jail. So Devra, thank you so much for calling in our directions on Friday and for releasing them on Sunday night, and for helping us all hold and know that we are sacred containers and we are, you know, have the sacred container together. So thank you so much. And I do recommend the 3:13 chat with Dev tomorrow about Path of the Priestess if you're curious. It really is amazing. Thank you.
Everybody, pleasure holding space for you. We'll see you at the next ritual. It's coming up.
It is coming up very soon. So I want to